Hello and welcome to Potpourri. I'm your host, Brittany Miller. On today's show, we have the founder and CEO of Copeland 22 Films, Mr. Dan Copeland. Welcome to the show, Mr. Copeland.
Thank you, Brittany, and I'm very happy to be here.
We're glad that you can join us. So let's go ahead and get started. When and why did you found Copeland 22 Films?
Well, what happened was I was a lobbyist at the state capitol and worked on the legislation to get the tax credit here in the state of Georgia. As I did that, and the first time, most people know the history of the legislation. It failed the first time. The second time, it passed. And I was one of the African-American lobbyists asked to work on it. And so when I finished working on it, we got it passed and everything, Ashanti Bradford asked me to help some people who had some movie scripts in the community that needed to do pitch. We started doing pitches like to investors and hedge funds people. And we did about 36.
Being a lobbyist and now being a film broker and working in the film industry, have you seen an increase in studios filming projects in Atlanta compared to cities maybe like New York or Los Angeles?
Oh, I've seen a great increase. With our tax bill, with the 31% tax bill, it creates a lot of opportunity. And that's one of the reasons why I changed the course direction. That's why Copeland 22 came established, was we became more of a film broker. Doing pitches on movies, we focus on taking the movie script, trying to sell it to a local production company, or also helping that writer to get funding or find someone with funding, but also do what you call an option. For like a large production company can do what you call a finance option. You have $3 million, you come up with the other $3 million if they like your script. So that's what I've seen a big increase in this community, and also in writers.
So you mentioned local studios. So as a film broker, do you primarily work with studios or script writers here in Atlanta, or more on like a national level?
It's more of a national. I started out doing locally, but since internet, and I've got people from California, Germany, Los Angeles, New York. I have people come all the time with different scripts. Now keep in mind how we take a movie script. We don't charge any fees up front, no fees at all. Now we take the movie script, for example, we do what you call a focus group on it. And we do the focus group on it. If the points come out good, if it's graded well, I bring in 6 people in the industry that know the script formation, want to see the story. I want to see that story come together. And we vote on that individually. And we take those points out of 100 points. We take 6 people the first time, do another 6 people. We take those points, whatever they come out to be. If they come out to about 80 points, that's great for me. But anything past 50, we don't usually do it. We usually pass on it. It's tough. It's a tough decision. I get beat up sometimes because I say no on that.
Is the point system, is that something that's uniform that all film brokers use, or is that particular to your company?
Well, I belong to a film group out in Los Angeles, a group of guys that do this every day. And I have exemplified a lot of their things. They do that. And I adapt the same format. Because those 6 opinions makes a difference. Because that's going to tell you who's going to watch the movie, who's going to be interested in the movie, how the story go, and that's what helped me. I mean, that helped me make that right decision. Because if I take it, for example, if I got a focus group on your script, and I take it to a production company, and I say, hey, we did a focus group, we got 80 points on this, or we got 90 points, or we got 100 points on this. Every corporation or every production company, the large, the University Studio, Tyler Perry, they have people called acquisition, new content, new development. That person want to talk to me. If I say, hey, I got this, that is what they want to see. They know a focus group is done on it. They know you got points on it. It's something they want to read. They don't have to waste a lot of their time.
If I wrote a script,
yes,
and I brought it to you, and it did not get enough points for you to take it to the next level, are there any classes that your company would offer to me as an aspiring scriptwriter to help improve my skills?
I don't offer class, but I make recommendations. For example, Brittany, there's a group of people in Los Angeles that script writing class you could take. There's a group in Atlanta that's up in Pinewood. They have some classes you can take, improve your writing. Emory have a good writing department. Spelman have one. Clark have a good I recommend that. Also recommend the writer to get around other writers. There you can go meet, I think meetup.com, and you can meet up with other writers and get more tests and let them go over your script with you and get that kind of information. Make it grow. I mean, I always tell writers who don't make the passing grade. And if I read it and I see it as good, and I say, you know what, why don't you write something else? It might not be the writing, it might not be a good story.
Do you see yourself in the past or even in the present working with a lot of the same script writers?
There's a couple that I have worked with that I've enjoyed and got their work, and probably got 2 or 3 of their scripts trying to sell to different people. Yeah.
Who are some of the major studios that you have worked with and sold scripts to?
Well, one of the majors when I sold one was to BET, and I approached Tyler Perry, get a lot of my stuff. I sent a lot of things out to Matt, and I sent a lot of things out to Universal Studio. I sent a lot of stuff out to Fox. I bounced a lot of stuff off to Will Packer. I called him up, and I approached Roger Bob, Punch TV, HBO, Bravo, Showtime, Lifetime Network, and I also sell faith-based movies as well. So TJ Jakes, I keep his studio, I keep calling him every week, or his people every week. Creflo Dollar's trying to develop a studio now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Joe Osteen, for example, on the faith-based part, they're developing one. I'm constantly on the phone, hey, I got something. And I try to send out, my goal is to send out approximately 2 to 3 movie scripts a month to different production companies, faith-based, maybe some that's non-faith-based, but try to keep them out there. And it takes 30 to 60, it could take almost 3 months, so.
Which genres have been most successful?
Be honest with the faith-based, I don't know why. I have no idea. I go to church every Sunday, I believe in God. I don't know.
Well, there's why. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Copeland. I have enjoyed learning all about film broking. If you'd like to tell our audience where they can reach you.
Okay.
Can you
can reach me at Copeland22films.com. I'm Dan Copeland on Facebook. My email is 22dancopeland@gmail.com, and I'm happy to be here, and thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Stay tuned to Potpourri. We'll be back after these messages.
And then from this angle, it all makes a star.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore.
Show up
And frustration, a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy, and giving up impossible.
And then we're going to turn on the lights and everybody look up.
I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought.
Find me one.
what's your reaction gonna be? Yeah, exactly.
And unconventional methods.
Okay, what else?
Common.
Little tadpoles, the frogs, spiders, this is their world.
There's nothing.
And then they die. Go ahead, go, go, go.
I'm a teacher. I make more.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours.
Dr. King, what's your next move?
In March from Selma to Montgomery.
Selma is loud for every man, woman, and child.
We will not wait any longer.
In front of a crowd.
Thine eyes have seen the glory
day across America. Excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to Potpourri. Joining me now is the founder and CEO of the Opportunity Hub, Mr. Rodney Sampson. Welcome to the show, Mr. Sampson.
It's good to be here.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So what exactly is the Opportunity Hub?
Sure. Well, let me give you some context. Okay. So I'm an Atlanta native. I've had 4 tech companies. 2 of them failed miserably, and 2 of them were actually acquired. We call that an exit. That means you start it, you grow it, you scale it, and somebody buys it. Okay. So 15 years ago when I started my first tech company, it was difficult to attract mentors, advisors, team members, customers of course, but mostly capital. So 15 years later, after having this amazing entrepreneurial journey, we decided to launch a space that would address those respective pain points that I had to overcome. Mm-hmm. And so the Opportunity Hub is an entrepreneurial center. It's like a startup hub. They're very, very popular on the West Coast, very, very popular in New York. They're popping up all over the place. There's several in Atlanta. Ours is the 3rd largest in Atlanta across 2 campuses. But essentially, an entrepreneurial center includes co-working spaces. So we have startup companies, we have growth stage companies, we have people with ideas who come in and essentially they rent a workspace. So they have a desk that they can work in a shared environment. Some actually have dedicated offices or a chunk of space that they actually call their own. So that's the first stack, is co-working. The second thing in an entrepreneurial center is curriculum. Mm-hmm. So we take companies from ideation stage all the way to market and beyond. We have over 200 events a year. I know we'll talk more about that. We have a pre-accelerator. We have an angel investing certificate. Essentially, we're like an entrepreneurship school. Okay. And then we have the code school where people actually come through 2 of our partners, the Iron Yard and Code U, where they actually learn how to code and build websites, build apps, you know, the stuff that we use on our phone. So we are very, very focused on education because that knowledge gap is what prohibits most entrepreneurs from moving forward, no matter the stage. And the third stack is capital formation. So we pipeline some of the companies that we call our investable or fundable. We pipeline them to other investors. We've invested in some of those companies ourselves. Over the last 2 years, companies in our, we call it an ecosystem per se, have raised over $5 million in seed capital for their businesses.
Wow. Yeah. So in that second stack, in the entrepreneurial school, what courses do you offer?
Sure. So some of our courses include entrepreneurial mindsets. Entrepreneurs fail for 4 reasons, and we try to address those pain points. One is they can't handle rejection. They can't really handle people telling them no. No, I'm not going to invest. No, I'm not going to buy your product. No, I'm not going to support you. Mm-hmm. They can't handle being told no. And they have to understand how to take a no and reshape that mentally as a maybe in business and then try eventually to get it to yes. So that's a mental thing. Mm-hmm. The third thing is they're not coachable. So we teach how to be coachable, even with success, how to maintain humility and be humble in terms of learning from people that have, you know, paved the way or doing something unique that you actually want to glean from. And the fourth thing is dreaming bigger. Culturally, we tend to dream small because you can only dream based upon what you have glimpsed or what your exposure is. So if you haven't been exposed to something, it's hard to actually envision it. Right. And so we do a lot of exposure exercises, showing people what success looks like, showing them what successful entrepreneurship actually looks like, and encourage them to address larger pain points in an industry or in society to dream bigger. So we deal with entrepreneurial mindsets. Then we deal with ideation, design theory, customer discovery, teaching people how to unthink the way they've been taught in school and to unthink the way they've been taught on their jobs. You know, as a society, globally mostly, we're taught to go to school, get a job, work for your life, and retire. And society has evolved to the point that innovators are kind of unthinking that process, and they're saying, no, they're disruptive, I'm going against the grain, I don't care if it's always been done this way, I want to do it differently. And so we teach that process. We teach a process called Lean Startup, you know, how to get in, test the product, test an idea, fail fast. You know, you meet some entrepreneurs that have been working on something for 10 years, and it's like, dude, if you couldn't get it off the ground in 1 year or 2 years, maybe you need to move on.
Right.
Maybe you didn't have the right partners, maybe you couldn't get traction, but, you know, stop holding on, not stop holding on to your dreams, but a particular idea, if it doesn't get enough traction in a certain amount of time, you should probably walk away from it. And that's a methodology that's been a part of the success of a lot of high growth startups. So we teach that Lean Startup methodology. We also teach something that's called Business Model Canvas, which essentially is the modern day version of a business plan. So we actually don't believe in doing full business plans. So I tell young people and millennials that if someone says, oh, you need to do a business plan, they're talking from 30 years ago.
Okay.
Right. Today it's about your pitch deck, it's about your executive summary, it's about your canvas. And so on a one-page canvas, you should be able to communicate everything that's relevant to a potential customer, team member, or an investor. So
how is that different from a business plan?
Most times a business plan is just a rearticulation of data that's been gathered from sources like Google and Wikipedia or Investopedia or some particular market, and they end up being 30, 40, some 70 pages long. It's just a regurgitation of stuff people can look up.
Okay.
But it's not dealing with, you know, what problem are you addressing, what's your minimum viable product, how much does it cost you to produce it, who's on the team, you know, what's your unfair advantage in being able to execute on this respective idea. So this whole lean startup methodology of starting a company, building it right from the beginning, and right has context, of course, and then being able to scale it. So after Business Model Canvas, we have another course that is around entrepreneurial fundamentals. So that's the legal, the incorporation, the accounting, the HR, all of the, you know, the branding, the marketing. And what we notice with a lot of startups is they start there before they even have a product. So they have fancy business cards and fancy Twitter profiles and LinkedIn and About Me sites, but they don't have a product yet.
So they're moving backwards.
Yeah, they're putting the cart before the horse. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Once you have an MVP and once you know what you're actually going to be selling, or you pretty much have a direction in the industry, then it's time to actually put all of that stuff in place. After that, we deal with access to capital. There are so many different ways of accessing capital. We deal with pitching, and then we deal with kind of mentorship from an industry's perspective. So we call that actually our pre-accelerator. So it's kind of an aggregate of 6 courses that make that up. And then we complement that with a lot of what we call influencer talks and panels. We've had everybody from Mark Cuban, who owns the Dallas Mavericks, is on Shark Tank. We have Damon John from Shark Tank. We've had Troy Carter, who used to manage Lady Gaga. Ben Affleck has been to the Opportunity Hub. Mark Burnett, who produces The Voice. So we attract a lot. Steve Case, who founded AOL. So we attract a lot of influencers because of our network, and we put those influencers in front of entrepreneurs and early stage companies.
Okay, so you mentioned pre-accelerators, and so I know there's pre-accelerators, accelerators, and incubators. Can you please share the difference between all of those?
Gotcha. All right. So first, you got to look at it as an ecosystem, right? So there's this industry or community. We call it a symbiotic ecosystem where everybody kind of feeds off of each other. And there's a pipeline into the ecosystem. So you have an idea, right? And that could be any idea. And you normally go to a co-working space and you get around like-minded people, so you're hanging out, going to networking events, going to meetups, and you say, you know what, this is something I'm really serious about, but you lack acumen, you lack a knowledge base of how the entrepreneurial ecosystem works. Now this is separate from the industry you're in, so you may have industry experience or an industry that you're targeting, but the fundamentals of navigating entrepreneurship are basically the same, and then they apply to respective industries. And so when you're talking about a pipeline, it's kind of like, you know, the pre-accelerator, in essence, where you go and get your entrepreneurial acumen, and you work through the ideation, you work through what's called a minimum viable product, which is your prototype, you work through how do you get your first customer, you work through legal structure, etc. Then after that, it's kind of like you graduate and then you apply to an accelerator.
Okay.
An accelerator is a 3 to 6 month program whereby you would apply as a startup entrepreneur that has a communications startup, right? Okay. You would apply to this accelerator program, and in essence, it's very competitive. If you get accepted, you get an investment of $25,000 to $50,000 in your company in exchange for some of the equity, usually 3 to 5, maybe 7%. So you are exchanging equity for that. You get access to mentors, programming. They actually help you to really fine-tune your model, and then they prepare you for what's called an incubator, whereas like incubator is kind of like you hatch, like a baby hatches, right?
Right.
You know, so we've kind of been like getting ready, right? We're in the 9 months leading to birth. Once you hatch, you go into an incubator, and that's where you really build and develop and nurture, and that usually involves, you know, you have office space, whether it's free or discounted, access to more mentors, connections, etc. And so after that, then you have these angel investors and venture capitalists that kind of hovering around looking for what companies that they're going to invest in. So for instance, you never meet a startup that's not looking for capital, but you'll meet, the majority of them don't understand how to best position themselves to get the capital. And so investors want to know, well, where do you work at? Where's your space? What program have you finished? What accelerator were you in? What incubator are you a part of? And it shows some accountability, but it also shows that, oh, this person has invested in themselves to actually give this the best shot.
Okay. So to my understanding, angel investing plays a large role in startup and growing a company. Can you tell us what angel investing is?
Sure. Angels are individuals who invest their own private capital. So they're not institutions.
Okay.
But to back up a little bit, so a quick lesson on investing, right? There are really two types, well, there are two types of products. One is debt, and one is equity. Okay. If you have student loans, you understand what debt is. You pay that back over time. Most people take their entire lives, and they pay it back with some type of interest. That's how a loan works. So whether that's a mortgage, a business loan, equity line, etc. When it comes to the equity, you actually are exchanging shares in your business. So for instance, I've often said, you know, 100% of your business might be $100,000 a year or $1 million a year. Less than 5% of Microsoft is what Bill Gates owns. So over time, he sold off more and more chunks of his business to get more and more investors in, and he eventually went public, which is a form of exiting a company or taking it to the public market, so you raise a lot of money. So when you're raising money for a business, you usually start off with your own money. You know, you got to have some skin in the game to get going, so you have to save up, you got to borrow, and then eventually you may go to family and friends. And now with this whole phenomenon around crowdfunding, that's where your family and friends can come from, particularly in communities where we don't have a lot of high net worth or wealthy people who can invest in startups. So your generation as a millennial has to really look at how crowdfunding can be disruptive. Like there are now sites that crowdfund college tuition. There are now sites that at lower interest rates than Sallie Mae and FAFSA, you know, so you want to look at that. There are also, of course, you've heard of Kickstarter and Indiegogo. There are now sites that are popping up where maybe one of your colleagues has graduated and they're starting a new tech company and they need to raise $20,000, and maybe 1,000 people invest $20 on a small piece of that company. And so crowdfunding is how our community could leverage the family and friends, because we might not have a lot of family and friends who can write a $5, $10, $15,000 check, right? And we're talking US dollars, not the Nigerian naira. So, and I say that because I just spent some time. We're taking about 15 college students from Nigeria through a startup week at our incubator now. So we were comparing currencies. So beyond the family and friends is when you get into like the pre-seed, the seed, and that's usually when angels step in. So angel investing in America is not a small, you know, industry. In 2013, there was about $25 billion invested in angel investor, in company, in about 70,000 companies. That created about 250,000 new jobs.
Wow.
So startups actually, funded startups where they can pay people for jobs, actually create more jobs than any, it's a drive of new jobs than the government, than the Fortune 1000 combined. It's the startup and small business community that produces the majority of jobs in this country, and that's fueled by angel investing.
Okay, I think I understand.
Okay.
So as intricate as these processes are, the Opportunity Hub is not just for adults.
No, it's not. Actually, so we have what's called Startup Summer, where we take high school and college students through summer programs where we introduce them to the startup ecosystem. We introduce them to coding and software engineering, how to build an app, how to game, how to hack. We introduce them to different startups around town. You know, traditionally, we go to college and then we look at jobs either at major corporations, foundations, nonprofits, and government. But our community is not looking at, you know, the startup community, particularly funded startups who, like, for instance, Yik Yak, you know, they're here in town. They're funded startup. Last year they were worth $200,000. This year they're worth $400 million. And they're employing people, you know, Instagram, Google, Facebook, Washio, Uber, all of these different startups and early stage companies that are growing really fast are actually a place of employment, but also a place to intern. And so we're trying to steer this generation towards looking at this innovation economy as a career, you know, space to actually look at. So we take students through that respective program, and now we're looking at what we can do year round. Like, for instance, this month in August at our West Side location near Pascal's is free open co-working for college students. So we're going to let college students come, place to hang out. They can work for free. They can work on their ideas, do their homework. We're just going to let them come for free. And then we're going to create a very affordable membership, like $30 a month.
Tell our audience about any upcoming events that OHub has to offer them.
Well, you know, this is back to school for most students, so we've kind of branded August as Back to Opportunity Month. So we've got so many events that are going on. Today we're actually a part of an announcement with the White House that the president will be making remarks in a little while. I've got to go be a part of a Periscope on this multi-million-dollar inclusive entrepreneurship initiative that we are a part of. So that's going on at the Hub today. We've got these students in town this week. Thursday will be with Caesar Mitchell and his Back to Business. So I'll be speaking there, and OHub will be there. Then we'll be a part of Steve Harvey's Neighborhood Awards. So we have this OHub outreach. We call it OHub at, where we're out in the community. We have one-day incubators that are running on Saturday. So if you go to opportunityhub.co/events, you can see all of the events we have planned for this month.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Sampson.
You're welcome.
You've been incredibly insightful. Thank you for joining us at Potpourri. Be sure to check out the Opportunity Hub and Copeland 22 Films. I'm your host, Brittany Miller. Have a wonderful day.